I'm back. I'm back. Who am I? I've been away for a few days, discovering myself and the mission of my show. Why do I even do it? Who am I? Well, I do it for me because as I attempt to explain this really cool thing, I come to understand it better myself. Um, and that's very helpful for me. It's also my favorite subject in the world, and in a way, I have created my own captive audience here, my own best friend that I can sit mm, around a fire and chat with for hours about my favorite topic in the whole wide world and try to explain the one thing that I want us all to really, truly understand about ourselves. We are so cool. The nature of the physical universe around us is so much cooler than we have been formally taught by either our religions or our schools or each other. Um, the possibilities are so much more breathtakingly positive and possible, but only if we understand who we are. Only if we, it's because who we are is what's so cool, and the only way to use the equipment is to understand what it is and how to use it. Otherwise, we're just banging around in a really painful world. It's a very painful world. When you focus on it in a particular way, it's very painful. But you don't have to focus on it that way, and it's. So there's two aspects of this that I get excited about, and some days I talk more about one side, and some days I talk more about the other side. One side of it has to do with more personal psychology, having to do with the meaning of your positive and negative emotions relative to the physical design that you possess. So, we're talking about law of attraction, but we're talking about the reason that it works is because the universe is designed the way it is designed. It is spin, it's a matrix of connected energy, it's a flow of information. The energy all comes from the information of all of it flowing around the whole structure. And it never ends. It never ever ends. This flow of information keeps going. And you are that. Consciousness is that. Uh, your mind and spirit and physical body, it's all that. As a matter of fact, there is only one thing creating everything, and that is the very structure of space-time itself. Now, nobody's going to hear this. I have one very loyal listener. It's probably my brother. I love him to death. Wonderful man. And growing. He himself is getting wiser, getting kinder, getting... Wouldn't you know it? Anyway, maybe it's somebody else. Maybe sometimes it's him. Maybe it's... It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to hear this, and it doesn't really matter because I do it for myself. Because the more I try to explain it, the better I understand it. And then the better I can actually apply it in my own life as I react to situations around me, as I do the equations to try to figure out what my next steps are, how to respond to things, or what do I want to initiate, what do I care about, what do I want to do, what do I want to experience. How do I decide how to spend our retirement, our money, our retirement money? All of it, all of it. How do I do all of this? And how does my understanding of myself and the universe um, play into this? Well, that's why I do the show, because in explaining it to you, I understand it myself. So the two aspects of the show are. Hold on one second. The first part of the show involves what I see as things like, well, I don't know if it's the first or the second. One part, half of the show is this. It has to do with the laws of the universe and the law of attraction. That which is like unto itself is drawn, and all of the rules of the structure of the universe. Things like, now, and I get this sort of from more spiritual sources. My understanding of this comes from several wisdom entities who have channeled different kinds of consciousness through. One is Abraham, and that's Esther Hicks. She's been doing that for 35, 40 years. And she'll explain to you what Abraham is. Actually, I should post on my website public playlists. I've got some great playlists of some really good Abraham from early on, when you could get videos of her doing her seminars. Because her little 14, 15-minute clips, of which she has made hundreds, if not thousands of these, she makes them by clipping out her content, her seminars, and then little nuggets of wisdom. And she's got thousands of these all over the place, and many of them, most of them, are animated now. She's got, animated programs that, and they look weird. She's doing all kinds of things, doing yoga, or walking through canyons, horseback riding, just whatever. Doesn't matter, I'm digressing. I can feel myself digressing. Let's get back to the point. The point is, the show is in two halves, and they're both equally important to me. And one of them is actually the one that comes up most often, and that is the one where it explains the meaning, the actual physiological meaning of your positive and negative emotions, how they are either dissonant or resonant frequencies that you are feeling. You're either feeling resonance with your true self, or you are feeling dissonance with your true self. And your dissonance is what you would call your negative emotion. The dissonance you feel, and what it is it's a relativity of thought. You have two minds, and these two minds are either blending or not blending. And one of your minds, you probably, if you're having trouble in your life, you probably don't even know about this second mind. The second mind is a higher mind. It's an overview self. It's a bigger frame. It's a larger picture. And if you in your smaller self have never thought of this and have never tried to add her in, you probably don't even know about her. Except for she is giving you feedback all the time, whether you know it or not. But if you don't know about her, you may be attributing this sensation you're getting as something else. What am I talking about? So you have your two minds, and your higher mind is always flowing with all the data, with more data. Because the universe is a data flow. It is a flow of information. And that is what you are. You are a flow of information. And most of it you don't know about, and most of it you don't have anything to do with. Most of it is just, it's taking place behind the scenes, or it's not really behind the scenes, it's right there. but you're probably not paying attention to it, but it is paying attention to all of what you are, making sure that your blood is flowing through your body and all of your cells are passing off their nutrition and their waste and, whatever, as they are working as a team to keep your whole body as this one unit. But every one of your cells is actually an independent little consciousness, a little point of consciousness that is doing in the moment what it feels like doing. But it has a common cause with all of the rest of the cells of you, and that common cause is the bigger frame that is you. And you don't have to be conscious of all of the ones underneath you, but you are a flow of information, relative to that, but you are also a cell in a larger organism. You have all these cells in your larger organism that is you, and you also are a cell in a larger organism. You exist in a larger frame, and you are a flow of information. And you have this overview mind who is thinking. It's thinking. It's thinking, and it is living your life too. It is also you. It's you, it's you, it's you. And when the two of you, your physical you and your non-physical you, start thinking along the same kinds of thoughts, the amplitude increases. When you are in resonance with your true self, the amplitude of your whole self increases. The energy level spikes. You are flowing with the greater. It's very cool. And we're going to talk about the physical structure of who you are. Actually, I just saw the greatest. Greatest. I thought it was really clear. And the visual it's got on it, how it explains the energy and when you are with and when you are off of your source amplitude, and what that means, how that works. That is you in coherence, and in coherence your energy level spikes, and everything that you want starts flowing your direction without you even really. You don't have to have your physical mind on every bit of what comes to you in order to have things come to you. As a matter of fact, for the most part, most of us, our physical mind is actually blocking more good stuff than it is facilitating. What Abraham teaches is something they call, whatever, the art of allowing. They used to call it the science of deliberate creation, but people got too heady about it. Now she teaches something called the art of allowing, which is sort of this blending of paying attention to how you feel, and I'm going to add in the additional piece of knowing the physics, adding in the physics, the new physics of who we are, so that the new physics understandings of the nature of the universe, and how what our atoms really are, what gravity really is, how physical reality comes into being, the origin of mass and the nature of gravity, so that we can tap into this field that we are, first of all, for energy. We can't keep burning fossil fuel. Now, I know a lot of people are not vested in, visionary work. They aren't looking at the future. They are too busy trying to get a grip on right now. What do I do right now? But honestly, if you had a better overview of our whole situation, it would be easier to see immediately what actual right now actions should be too. It all flows together. So this understanding of our overview self really does have practical value, has lots of practical value, as a matter of fact. And you yourself are going to evaluate whatever practical value you can glean from whatever it is that I might be saying here. Remember, the two aspects of the show are this: what is my positive and negative emotions? I'm actually kind of going into that right now, but uh, um, I have been getting really excited about the other aspect of it which is a true unified understanding of the physics of it. And my own mind and my own consciousness can see it. And so I get really excited. And now I want to try to explain these things, but they relate to each other. And frankly, the one of them, the esoteric one, the one that where I start, which one is esoteric? The one where I talk about us as psychology and us as positive and negative emotions, and what is the meaning of your overview self and your binary nature, your vibrational self combined with your atom molecule self that equals you. There's that aspect, and then there's which one did I even just say? The atoms and molecules on the one side, and the positive and negative emotion and my psychology on the other side, and how do they play together? And how do I navigate my own personal path with this information? What the hell does that mean? What do I do when I have negative emotion? What do I do with it? What do I do with it? How do I dissipate it? How do I translate it? How do I understand what it is without glomming on to fixating on it and holding to it? Because my negative emotion actually is not me. My negative emotion is actually me not blending with myself. My physical thoughts that my physical mind is free to take at any time, how it is blending with my true self, who actually knows who I am, and is thinking thoughts. How does that work? It turns out that aspect of the story is the one that is more practical. It's the one that comes up all the time. How do I deal with my negative daughter, or my negative feelings about my husband, or what do I do about my negative feelings about the world? How do I even translate, my fear of pedophiles, or my fear of war, or I don't really have any of those fears. I have come personally to not pay very much attention to my fears, because my fears are not me. And my fears are not coming from the greater part of me that really knows who I am, what I'm about, how the energy flows, what my life is about, how in danger or not in danger I really am. My fear is not coming from the aspect of me who knows. My fear is coming from the aspect of me that does not know. And so I don't, your fear is telling you something. It's a piece of information, but it's not as existentially true as you think that it is. It is telling you something about the condition. It's telling you that you are observing something that you do not prefer. That's what it's telling you. You are observing something that you do not prefer. However, it is not directly telling you how to change that. Because acting on your negative emotion and moving directly to try to shift the condition from your negative standpoint is not the way to do it. It will only create more of that negative vibration if you try to do it that way. This is what part of my discussion is going to be about. It is every day. Part of my discussion is about how to handle the, I'm air quoting, real world from that position. But I want you to know that there is physics understanding that is grounding this, that I am really, really excited about, that I would love, to explain to you the physics of the physical universe, the new physics, the shape of it, the taste of it, the texture of it, how it blends with the law of attraction and our and the understanding of your positive, negative self, your who you really are. Who am I and what is possible? As human beings, what is possible? When you understand how reality comes into being, you realize that it's part of a flow of information like an electromagnetic field. And we can influence and control electromagnetic fields. And we can influence and control this. We can use this information to help create materials right out of the field. In other words, it has enormous implications to future manufacturing. It has enormous implications to energy supply. It has enormous implications to gravity control and space flight and transportation. It has enormous implications to economic activity and the movement of energy and people and goods and things around the planet. It has enormous implications to all of these things. And it's so big, it's hard to... what you don't do is you don't look at the current state of material manifestation and then try to shove this huge, massive change into cubbies that are already here. Don't do that. Just reimagine the whole damn thing. And then let's come together there in that frame and put it all together. Just lay new pipes. There's no reason to try to shove all the new stuff into the old pipes. It's never going to work. We got to lay new pipes of education, new pipes of understanding, new pipes of information, new pipes of energy flow. I am not worried about how to dovetail it in with what we've already got. You don't have to worry about that. Just imagine what's possible. And we can just go straight there. You don't have to stop and convince everybody else. And at some point, people will start, just like when you're playing spoons. You remember the game Spoons? Especially if you're playing with a really big table, it's fun. Because for a while, when the first person gets the four of a kind and slips his spoon off the table, maybe it's 4 or 5 people to the right of you, and you don't see that because you're still trying to find that fourth 8, or whatever it is you're working on. But then at some point, and you don't have to call out anything. You just grab your spoon and you're going. You're safe now. You're cool. You're rocking it. And other people start picking up the spoons as they realize that a spoon has been taken. And then all of a sudden, everybody's grabbing for the spoons. And that's what it's going to be like. When people realize that we're talking about free, clean energy directly out of the vacuum, directly out of the structure of space-time. And the way that you understand how to get there is understand who we are. Understand how this space-time thing works. I'm begging you, please go watch the 12-part series over on Gaia called Quantum Revolution. It will start the beginning of your inkling of putting this structure together within your own consciousness. Because I'm going to tell you what your consciousness is. It is a template that is capable, if you'll line it up correctly, if you will align it, your two selves in alignment with one another, your physical self that you imagine is your physical mind and how all that works. It's your brain, your physical brain is part of your consciousness. You have two aspects of your consciousness. One is kind of a bigger one that is vibrationally in touch with all things, and you probably are not very in touch with this self. But she's there, and she's in touch with everything. She is anchored in you, or your personal aspect of this is attached to you. And she's thinking all the things she's thinking about. She is so in love with life, and she is so happy about the universe. She understands how possible everything is. She knows it's all plonks, and she knows those plonks move by way of desire, by way of attention, by way of focus. There's all kinds of things that are moving this mechanism. There's momentum involved. Anyway, what is your consciousness? I was just about to say that. You have within you a template that is capable of reflecting the whole of everything. You can see it all. You are the whole thing. You can see the whole thing. You don't have to die to get to this place. Although when you die, you see the whole thing. But the problem is when you reemerge into non-physical, you do not possess the physical anymore. Not directly. I mean, we are all physical, non-physical. We're all part of this whole flow of data and information, and it's all holographic. And I think we need to wrap our heads around the meaning of the word holographic. What it means to be holographic. It means all of the information is everywhere. You can tune into it. You have and your consciousness is like this mirror capable of holding all the frequencies. You can see it all. You can tune it all. And you do not have to reemerge into non-physical in order to get to this place. Although, when you reemerge into non-physical, you will understand the structure again. You'll go, oh, yes. And the whole idea is to try to get to a place of understanding in physical of this structure. You always understand it when you reemerge back into non-physical, but you can see it from physical. You do not have to die to see your whole self, to tune into this thing that you are. And I just get really excited about when I realize what is possible in physicality on planet Earth, in our real lives, if more of us understood how the structure of the universe actually worked. So, I've talked more about the psychological, the feeling side of it than I have about the physical side, although I keep promising to talk about all of it. What have I talked about? So you are two selves. You are two selves, and one of them is your vibrational self. It is connected to all things. This is your higher mind. This is a mind that you have. And it is you, as well as it is the fullness of everything around you. But that is you also, and you and your physical mind are capable of lining your two selves up. when you line your two selves up, your life goes really, really well. It's your smaller frame is honoring your larger frame, and you are not at cattywampus cross purposes to one another. What that is when you are in a state of negative emotion, you are at cross purposes to your true self, to your larger frame, to what you really know. Now, you might say that's all well and fine. My greater self knows that we are all one, humanity or whatever, but all of the people that I live next door to are crazy. They're a militia, maybe. Maybe I live right next door to the Branch Davidians. Or I'm living right next door to the Maharishi Yagmat Yaman, whatever that guy was um, who started that war. It wasn't a war. That the kerfuffle in Oregon, and started their own town and brought homeless people from California, and they municipalized, and they politicized, and then there's some really interesting shows on Netflix about cults and cult leaders and the whole phenomenon of that. Actually, the understanding that I try to put forward in my little show, Who Am I? Speaks to all of these things. Speaks to this. It will. If we understood these things, we would understand why cults happen, why cult leaders happen, why authoritarian psychosis happens, why tyrants happen. All of that, we would understand ourselves fully, and we would no longer have a problem with these sorts of things. We wouldn't push back against evil quite the same way. We would understand that these are all forces within the human being, and the way to calm them down is not to declare war on them and focus on them exclusively, and then, battle them on the outside, give them that kind of resistance. Actually, that only, in a way, had Churchill been wiser and kinder and more cognizant of the actual fuller problem that he was looking at, perhaps World War II need never have happened quite the same way that it did. But we weren't there, and I'm not going to second guess history, because everything is always working out for us, and he was inspired to his massively important position. Who's he? I'm talking about Churchill. We're watching a show about Churchill, which on the one hand, in some ways, I kind of disagree with. I don't disagree with the history of it or anything, but if it ever starts laying out this message of this is who we are and this is what it will always be, and we're going to drag history forward into the now and into the future, as recognizing when we must always fight on the outside other human beings who, instead of understanding, there's only one of us here, people. I'm sorry. There is only one of us here, and it is humanity. And that thing we did last century, it was total full-blown autoimmune disorder. Now, it may have been necessary because this rabid thing took hold over on the Hitler side that was actively trying to enslave the world through this completely out of coherence philosophy that he had about. He was fully engaged in his negative self, He had clicked into that negative side, drew the line of conclusion at the bottom, and summed it all up, and he was going for it from that negative side. I imagine that's why we might imagine that he is the Antichrist. He probably was the full-blown anti-Christ side of the equation. But in a larger frame, it's all us. There's nobody else here but us. Human beings did all of it, and you can't point a finger of blame outside of yourself. When you do that, you deny the structure of your own being, and you blame the other person. You're like, you're the one who is. We have a little bit of that going on in a wing of the family ourselves. You see it all around. Somebody who focuses on somebody else's bad behavior, completely ignores their own bad behavior. You're disallowing your own. You're focusing right on theirs, and then blame, blame, blame. And blame does feel better than guilt. You do have a way of knowing how well you are blending with the true self that you really are. Now, I know a lot of people do not believe in this next concept. The idea that the true self that you really are is love. Who you really are is love and joy and playful energy and connected to all things and absolutely fearless and absolutely confident and knowing who your worth really is unto this magnificent universe. That's who you really are. That's who you really are. Now, most of us, how we act in our physical self is generally something less than that magnificence, The world has taken us down a peg or two, and we have not figured out how to be that full-blown self without the universe, without people around us, nipping us down a bit, keep it down. Your raucous, jubilation over there is harshing my whatever. I don't know. When we are young, we want to just be abandoned and joyful and playful but then we have to learn all the rules of our society and how to get along, and we sort of have to learn that and ingrain that, and then from that acceptable place within our society, now try to figure out how to find a way to let those spirits back out. Well, what advice do I have about this? Your inner being will show you the way, will help. Wow, I'm 38 minutes in. I've gotten a slightly bit off track. I know that I was excited about the physics when I first sat down, and now I'm kind of, who am I? Who am I? The physics is really exciting, though. It is so exciting, but I also want you to know that your positive and negative emotions aren't what you think they are, or probably aren't what you think they are. The physical world that you are looking at is not primary. It's secondary. It's real. In a way, it's absolutely real. It's not when they say, "Oh, this is all an illusion," they don't mean that it's not real. They mean that it's probably not. You're looking at it from a funny angle. And if you could but find a different angle with which to view it, you would see how it all lines up. That it really is okay. That you actually have full control over the only thing you would ever need to control. And actually, we're going to find that we have a lot of control over things in the physical world too. We have humanity. Oh, just imagine what our society, just imagine this, if just imagine this, within the next 10 to 20 years, you start seeing full-blown changes, like we're changing. Like, if not fully changed, we are in the throes of changing. If we had a free, clean energy source that was everywhere, that did not deplete any natural resource to tap into. Imagine that one, first of all. And then the second one you should imagine is that we fully understand what gravity is. And in the same way that we can control electromagnetic fields, which has brought us all the technology that we have, that we're so proud of ourselves about here in the 20th and 21st centuries. It's actually more 20th century technology that we're like just trying to get slicker and slicker at, instead of reaching the next level, which is finding that clean, free energy source that is everywhere. Well, it turns out to be the structure of space-time itself is absolutely nothing but this energy stream and this energy flow, and it's free and it's clean and it's everywhere. Wherever you are, there it is. You're on a desert island far away from anywhere, you've got the energy source. As long as you have the technology that will plug you into it, then you've got the energy. The energy is not the problem anymore. It's what you're looking for is directly the technology. But then there's other things to understand the vacuum and how matter is coming across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field. How it is doing it is going to unlock replicator technology, just like you see on Star Trek. Might even be cooler than that, better than that. We can replicate things. We can design things and pull it straight from the structure of the vacuum. Now, I don't know exactly how that works, and whether you have to have the raw materials in the general area in order to do that, or whether you can just, I don't know how you pull those frequencies. It's all frequencies, and everything is present everywhere. So right here where I am, the whole universe is right here with me. That didn't explain anything. Who am I? I'm just so excited. Our future is so amazing. And some people are like, get your head out of the clouds and look, that's not what we're doing now. What we're doing now is you got a slave to blah, 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 blah. Get the gasoline to put in, drive the man. Whatever. Pay attention to what it is now. Get your head out of the clouds. But you know what? Your inner being is looking at what's coming physically because it's in vibrational process right now. So your inner being is already looking at what's coming. And if you got on board with her, she'd let you in on some of the great ideas. And some of those great ideas, as you pull the future into the present, are going to be worth lots of money. Lots of money. And you could build an empire by being a visionary now. So it's not impractical to have your head in the clouds that way. You just got to figure out where the two of you meet, because you have this overview self, and then you have your smaller self, banging around in your physical world trying to make heads or tails out of your family, out of your life possibilities, out of your neighborhood, your neighbors, your nation, your history, your world, your future, your existence, trying to make heads or tails of your existence. Well, I'm telling you, your inner being already knows all about your existence. Already knows that. And so, your only task, your singular and only task, is to get your two selves into alignment. And when you do that, some very magical things start happening. Because you are not just two hearts, you are two minds. And you may be one of those people in possession of a mind that really wants to dig its teeth into something meaty. You know? Something meaty and something interesting. Well, this is really meaty and it's really interesting. And what I'm telling you is that since you are this flow of information, this flow of data and information and holographic data and information, you are this flow of that. When your two minds get into alignment, your physical mind is capable of knowing more of the kinds of things that your overview mind knows. You become a visionary. You start getting more visionary. You're like, oh, I can see the bigger frame of what's happening. Why would I keep banging around in this? It's like, it's as though you're running a maze. And for the longest time, you're just down there in the maze, and all you can see is eyes on the ground. You know, that's all you can see. And at some point, you realize, oh, I have this other mind who is floating above the whole thing and can see where I am in the maze. And now it no longer makes sense to keep going down this passageway because now I can see that 50 steps down and a little bit to the right, the whole thing dead ends. So I don't need to go this way anymore. From my overview self, I can see that, over here, up a little ways and to the left, it opens up and gets really beautiful and fun over here. You know? But your physical mind is capable of tapping in to the information that your universal mind knows. There's a reason why they call it universal consciousness. It's because all of us have access to it. That's what makes it universal. It's not there's this universal place where all is known and no one's allowed in. It's not like that. Everyone is allowed in. That's why it's called universal consciousness. This place where all is known and everyone can know it. Crazy. You have that. You do not have to wait to die. But most people are like, they use it as an excuse to not think. Now, you want to get your physical mind in alignment with your source mind. If that's what you're aimed to do, you have to understand some things about your source mind. Your source mind feels very safe, very loving, very confident, eager, interested, joyful, playful. Those are all the characteristics of your source mind. So if you aren't doing that, then you are not in alignment with your source mind. If you think you're in alignment with your source mind, but you're all pissed about the bigger picture that is coming into view for you, then you are not in touch with source mind, because source mind is not pissed. It's not angry about anything, because it knows. It knows. Why would it be angry about anything? It knows that you are important. It knows that you are eternal. It knows that you are invulnerable. How are you invulnerable? You are invulnerable because you are the formless. You are not the form. You are the formless. And you can take on any form. From that perspective, nothing can hurt you. Now, you might say, wait a minute. What do you mean I'm the formless? I am form. And you look down at your body and you say, I am form. Well, what did you just do? You just identified with something. This is why I call this show, Who Am I? Because it's really important. Which aspect of you are you identifying with? And if you spend your whole life identifying with the physical body that you are, primarily, I am, and you, both conscious and unconscious, you're just always, I am this body, I am this body, I am this body, then that's where you lock into in your consciousness. That's why you feel that way. That's why you feel vulnerable, because you have identified primarily with your physical self. And your physical self is expirational. Your physical self is going to deteriorate. But you have another self. You may not know that you had another self. You may have thought that this was God or something. It's you. It's you and your connection to the allness. Now, so there's you and your connection to the allness, and then there's somebody else and his connection to the allness, and then there's the allness, which includes all of us, all added together. That's the actual frame that we are abiding in, and the whole thing is vibrational, and there's no separation between any of the parts. It's one thing. It's one thing. And you can argue with that, but the second that you argue with that, you disallow your own ability to see what that looks like. And that's the only thing you've done. You've just disallowed your own ability to comprehend that. You haven't proven that it's not true. You've just proven that you can't see it. Who wants to do that? In actual fact, your physical mind is capable of seeing much of what your source mind can see. Now, your source mind can actually see everything. It is in touch with all the frequencies. And the way that it's doing it is all of the frequencies are present. How does this work? It's really very, very cool. How does the holographic bit of it work? Do I want to shift from talking about this from a psychological and spiritual perspective to speaking about it from the Planck view? So there are these scales of information flow across big scales and across small scales. And the whole thing is flowing all of its information around the whole thing all the time. All of the tiny parts are uploading their information up to larger data network, like up to hubs, up to larger data flows, and the information of the whole is being downloaded from the whole back down to the part. And it's happening every Planck instantaneous instant it's happening. And so it's very highly, highly, highly accurate as far as having the current information on the current, everything from the, what kind of information is it? Both large and small. So the small information would be things like every tiny particle. What direction is it moving? What temperature is it? What, where is it on the grid? You know, how fast, what's its velocity, its temperature, its vector direction, all of that. And uploading it as it's moving every now. So the whole is getting all of the information every Planck instant. And anyway, so there's this flow of information. And oh gosh, I need to figure out how to explain it. How Nassim Nassim had some visuals that was going on in the background as he was showing these waves of movement and how they were relating to each other. These two vector arrows moving in opposite direction to one another, and they're flowing in that direction. And when these two waves come into coherence with one another, the energy spikes to infinity. And when they go out of phase with one another, they're completely out of alignment with one another, how it flattens to zero. And it just keeps doing this. And it's demonstrating that when you get into alignment with the flow of what's really happening around you, this flow of data and information and energy, and that is the universe, that is all the frequencies flowing around us. When you get into perfect alignment with that, the energy spikes. And when you get into decoherence with that, the energy level flattens. And so what does that mean? Well, get into alignment with yourself. That's what it's really telling you to do. Get into alignment with your true self, because it is in touch with all of the rest of all that is. And it is like your overview self is that view that is above the maze and knows who you are, where you came from, what you want, what you would like in this world, what would make you happy, what kinds of relationships, what kinds of work, where you would like to live, and what kinds of experiences you would like to have. Your inner being knows all of that. Not only about you, but knows where what you want intersects in a Venn diagram with what everybody else wants. And when she leads you to what you want, it doesn't step on anybody else's toes, but rather dances perfectly with what everybody else wants too. You just have to follow your inner self. You have to get into alignment with your true self. And there's a really cool thing that happens, and I haven't done any of my outside quotes for a while. I'm going to go find this one because I want to get it right. Found it. When you integrate yourself as a biological being, you connect with the morphogenetic field of the planet. This has to do with locking into layers of smaller, larger and larger information fields. So when you integrate yourself as a biological being, you click into the morphogenetic field of the planet. When you integrate yourself at the atomic level, you integrate with the solar system, and at the level of the proton, you integrate with the galaxy. And when you get all the way down to the Planck, you have integrated yourself with the information flow of the entire universe. So as you lock into personal alignment through the layers of yourself, your consciousness is locking into larger and larger morphogenetic fields of information and data flow around you. See how that works? Very, very cool. Who am I? Who am I and what is the point of my life? I'm going to tell you right now, you have a lot more influence in the on your family and how all of that's turning out, on your neighborhood, on your nation, on your planet, than you realize. And your true power comes from your alignment. Align yourself with your true vibrational inner being, that formless aspect of yourself that is in touch with all the rest of the universe, that deathless energy that you are a part of. Identify with that part of you. Don't be afraid to identify with this part of you. It's considered impolite, I suppose. You're supposed to identify with the physical aspect of you. And then, you're all safely put in your place. You all feel afraid of everything. You all feel very small. You realize you're just dust in the wind, one of billions, and who cares anyway? When you identify primarily with yourself, with your physical self, as opposed to identifying with the aspect of yourself who you really are, you disempower yourself. And when you identify with the other side, the formless aspect, you start to feel your oats. You start to feel how important you could be. But your importance is not going to come from your ego side. It's going to come from your alignment with the rest of the group, with the rest of the whole, with the community project going on. You become a team player with the rest of the field. You understand that you are a field phenomenon. And that's a very powerful and important aspect of yourself. But the way that you play it is you have to be authentically yourself. Connect to your own source and then do whatever you are inspired to do from that position, from your state of coherence and alignment and pure positive energy. Do whatever you are inspired to do, whether it's cook fabulous meals or play haunting, beautiful, powerful music, or whether it's make speeches to large crowds, or whether it's just to take loving, special care of whatever small creatures or children that are in your charge. Whatever you are inspired to do from your position of alignment, because that's where your influence is. It's like Abraham says, those who are in alignment are more powerful than millions who are not. That's where your power is. Anyway, I've passed an hour. I will stop for the day. I did not finish anything. There's so much more to talk about. I don't do this for you. I do it for me. The more that I try to explain it to you, the more I understand it myself. Who am I? And what is my life all about? What's the object of the exercise of life that I am engaged in? How do I see it? Well, to live as fully as I can, to be as fully in alignment with my two selves as I can be, because from that position will I experience joy and connection and fulfillment. It is my highest desire to experience those high-flying emotions. Those emotions are who I really am. And so that's what I'm looking for here on earth, that feeling of love and connection and excitement, exhilaration, joy, playful, whatever. Will I be back tomorrow? That's a good question. Today is Saturday. Is it Saturday? I think it's Saturday. No, it's Sunday. Today is Sunday. Tomorrow's Monday. Will I be back? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see whether I am inspired to come back and do this again and again. You know, I would like to tell any of my fans who might actually be watching the show and listening to, you know, how I am doing. I'm going to have physical things, changes in my life that things are starting to happen. I can't even believe the things that are starting to happen. First of all, I have always wanted to be thin. I have always wanted to be thin, and I I'm not quite thin, but a few years ago, if you asked me, actually a few months ago, if you asked me, hey, if you lost 22 pounds, would you be happy with that? I would say yes. That would be thin enough because I don't need to be thin. But now that I'm there, I'm like, oh, I could be thinner than this. Things are just happening for me. I can't even believe it. Nobody wants to hear this, but I'm just losing weight. I'm trying to in a way, but there's no effort at all. And the weight is just coming off. I'm going to be exactly the weight I want to be. And it's not because I'm not taking any drugs. I'm not taking the shots everybody's taking, you know. I'm just I'm on the Mediterranean diet and think it's just melting away. It's melting away and I'm not even trying. I used to have arm flaps. They're just kind of receding back in, you know. I I I think physically I'm getting the body that I wanted, and it's funny because I'm turning into an old lady, but I'm starting to have the body I've always wanted. It's a little weaker than it was when I was younger, and it's too bad I couldn't have this when I was 20. But what I'm saying is I'm just learning to be happy. I'm learning how to line my two selves up. That's my one and only goal, to make sure that I feel, but not from a physical standpoint. It's not I feel, I don't know. I'm getting into my vortex. I'm getting into alignment with my two selves. This taking care of how I feel is not outwardly based. It has nothing to do with physical conditions. It has to do with whether or not me and me are agreeing with one another. That's me with a little m and me with a big M, you know? Micro and macro me. Are we in alignment with one another? And the more that they are in alignment with one another, the more things in my physical life are starting to break loose. Things that were stuck, that I thought there were physical forms that were making it like a disorganized garage, making it absolutely impossible to ever think about a move anywhere or a, you know, a change in life, because the first thing I have to do is I have to force myself to go in there and organize these things. And since I can't do that, then nothing else can ever happen. And that was kind of like a sticking place. And now it's like lay new pipes, and who cares? Who gives a F about an effing F about the things in the garage? You know, if I walked away from all of it, who even cares? Lay new pipes, lay new pipes. The stuff doesn't matter. There is something else that is the key. Who am I? Who am I? We're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to ask that question again and again and again. And as my life moves on, I'm going to have to start telling you, you know, all of the miracles that are transpiring in my life because of this new way of looking at things, this new look, this new perspective. That this new identity. Who am I? And how does this whole thing work? And what is possible for human beings? What is possible? We're going to ask that. And so, until the next time we come together, be it tomorrow or some later day after that, do the best you can. Know that the most important thing is pay attention to how your thoughts are making you feel. And when you take a thought that makes you feel bad, spit it out and take a different thought. Because you can put the whole thing together with thoughts that, in a way that actually is easy to digest, is joyful to behold. It doesn't have to be a pill. And as a matter of fact, if it is a pill, you've got your angle wrong. You're facing backwards. Please don't try to move forward from that position, because you're going to create a negative energy field that all of us are going to have to deal with. So we'll talk more about that. Maybe, if I remember to bring that one up. That's a pet idea of my own. See, I have all these things that I get from others, and I have input them into my operating system, and they're playing nicely with one another. And then from that foundation, brand new things of my very own come into view, and I'm like, oh yes, divine autonomy. Oh yes, whatever that one I was just thinking about was. Shiva energy, that sort of thing. Anyway, we'll talk about all these things and how to expand our understanding of who we are and how all of this works. I know that I was going live for a while. At some point, I may play one of these live. I've already recorded it. I'll play it live, and then I'll man the chat room just in case anybody shows up and wants to talk about what I'm talking about. In any case, if you noticed, I went live for a bit and now I'm not live. It's because I had some technical difficulties. I'm having some issues, identity issues with that as well. I sort of lost track of what my show was. You know, am I just getting on the horn and just bleh out loud every day, or is there a particular presentation I'm trying to drive to? I sort of lost my way. So I've stopped doing the live shows for the moment. I think eventually I need to do both this Who Am I not live presentation, where I'm riffing and stuff, but I'm trying to drive to a point and I'm not live. I'm making a video. And then do the live ones too. I don't know. I gotta figure it out. But for now, mostly I do this show because every time I describe this, I get clearer about what I'm describing. That's really why I do it. So I'll be back maybe tomorrow. Hope you'll be with me. I appreciate your loyalty out there. And until tomorrow, or whenever I do come back, you do your best to stay connected with your source. Pay attention to how you feel. You are most powerful in your alignment. And until tomorrow, may the source be with you.